Welcome into First Take. Good morning. Thank you for being with us. Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, Molly Karam here. Guys, it's been a crazy morning already.
These are the kind of days I love doing this show with you.
What's up, man? Good to see you, bro.
Good job on your breaking news.
Me, Adam Schefter, all the football gurus.
Okay.
They are good gurus.
Yes, they are.
We got a lot of breaking news.
I'm just a humble co-host.
No,
Yeah.
we got a lot of breaking news today from last night as well. We're going to get into it. We blew up the rundown, so here we go. Let's get you guys caught up. The Cowboys quarterback situation, obviously, that's heating up in Dallas. What do the guys make of it? We'll dive into that. Plus, Terrell Owens reaches out to the Cowboys. Should we get our popcorn ready? We'll fill you in there as well. But first, Stephen A., you have some breaking news involving Kam Chancellor's holdout. Let's get into that right away.
Kam Chancellor has decided that he's going to end his holdout. He's going to report back to the Seattle Seahawks. He and I text back and forth this morning, and essentially, without reading exactly what he said, what it comes down to is that he made a promise to Marshawn Lynch a couple of years ago about what they were going to do. His goal is to get back and capture a Super Bowl that they feel they lost last year, that they think they deserve. And more importantly than anything else, it really hurt him to see his team out there losing games without him, knowing that he could have made a big difference. He talked about his teammates. He talked about what he owed to them. He talked about what he owed to Marshawn Lynch and how that commitment to his teammates and the guys that he goes to war with is bigger than his business issues right now. He made no bones about the fact that he will not ignore the issues of being underpaid as the safety for the Seattle Seahawks, but he acknowledged that those are things that could and should be addressed in the offseason. Right now, as things presently stand, they're 0-2 and in danger of falling apart. And he realizes that he simply cannot just stand by the wayside and allow this to happen. And in fairness, you know, to everybody involved, I'm not the only person that talked to Kam Chancellor. I'm quite sure Ray Lewis has spoken to Kam Chancellor. I know that Adam Schefter does his due diligence, and he knew exactly everything that was going on because he and I spoke as well. So you want to give credit to them. But in the end, what it comes down to is that Kam Chancellor recognizes that he is needed, and more importantly, it would be very, very difficult for him to live with himself if he just sat on the sidelines while his teammates went out on that field and struggled the way that he has seen them struggle over the last 2 weeks. He's shoving all of that business stuff aside for the ultimate goal. So,
as yet, do you have any idea what concessions were made on either side?
There are no.
Like just let it go?
He was at about 4.5.
Yeah.
Remember, they came up to 8.1.
There's like 900,000.
There's about 900,000. Yeah. No concessions were made. No conversations took place. He just decided that it's time to go back and handle his business on that football field, and it's something that they can revisit in the offseason.
Wow. That is noble. That is impressive. That is exactly what I thought and said on this show he should have done maybe a week ago. I get it, I get the impasse, and I know the philosophical differences that he wanted to be taken care of a little bit, at least in another year, by having some money moved up. But if you love your football team, as I know he does, and you like your chances even at 0-2, you gotta. I know some people look at it as cave in. It's not that he's caving in. He's just coming back for the good of his brethren. That's what he's doing. The guys that he's gone to battle with.
Well, I want to make sure that I'm very, very clear about something here. According to Kam, there were conversations with the Seattle Seahawks in the past, obviously. From what I heard from other people, not Kam, Kam had told folks that John Snyder, general manager for the Seattle Seahawks, essentially looked him dead in his face and told him, I'm not taking care of you this year, next year, or the year after. You're under contract. Now, obviously, when you talk about the NFL culture, how teams can go to a player, ask them to restructure their deals, waive them, cut them, take a pay cut, etc., Kam Chancellor was very, very offended by that. Now, I'm not here to cast aspersions on John Snyder. I don't know him. I know that he's considered very, very good at his job. Obviously, he's got a Super Bowl championship and 2 consecutive Super Bowl appearances on his resume. Used to work for the Green Bay Packers, used to work for the Washington Redskins, even though he's only 43, 44 years of age. His resume is quite impressive, to be quite honest with you. So understanding that and knowing that I don't know him, nor have I ever spoken to this man, I want to be very, very clear. In no way am I trying to cast any aspersions on him. I'm just conveying the whole thought process that was given to me by Cam and others close to Cam about what Cam was feeling throughout this whole process. He felt disrespected. He felt like his manhood was brought into play because a guy can look you in the face and tell you under no circumstances is he going to take care of you at all, considering what Kam Chancellor goes out on the field and does. His pride was a part of the equation. And so as a result of that, that's why he was so steadfast and resolute in his commitment to holding out.
Yeah.
I think the loss to Green Bay on Sunday night, how they looked in the fourth quarter after taking a 17-13 lead, how the defense appeared to have fallen apart, I think really, really hit home for him. And I don't know if he'll admit it or if any of those other guys will admit it. I don't even know if they'll acknowledge having talked to him, but I suspect, I don't know for sure, but I suspect that the great Ray Lewis had something to do with talking to him as well.
And by the way, what did he say on your radio
Ray Lewis
show?
came on my radio and said he deserves his money, he should get his money, Seattle should give him his money, etc. But I can't leave my troops out there while they're going to war without me. I can't leave them hanging like that. That's just not something that I could do. But that was before Ray Lewis realized that it was a man thing, because you got to treat guys like men. Ray Lewis also alluded to that as well. You've got to treat brothers like men. You can't sit up there, look them in their face, and tell them under no circumstances are you going to take care of them. After you took care of Richard Sherman, after you took care of Marshawn Lynch, after you took care of Russell Wilson and a couple of other guys, you can't then turn around and say to the quarterback and the heart and the soul of your defense, who is Kam Chancellor, that we are not going to do anything for you and expect him to just accept that so easily. That is not something that he was going to do. He was resolute in his commitment to hold out. I believe that his mind changed. And, we spoke an hour ago. I got the impression that that loss on Sunday night to Green Bay, the manner in which they lost, resonated with him in such a fashion that he finally came to the conclusion, the hell with Snyder, Carroll, and everybody else in the front office. I'll deal with that in the offseason. I can't leave my boys hanging like this, and that's why he's gone back.
I personally thought he would come to that conclusion after what happened in Week 1 at St. Louis when they gave up 34 in overtime to Nick Foles.
Well, you got to remember,
that was stunning.
You got to remember it's the preseason.
Yeah.
You're not getting a lot of action in the preseason because you want to make sure you're healthy for the regular season, and sometimes a little rust, absence of activity, really getting your bearings under you can play a role in how you look in Week 1. A lot of NFL players assume that they're not going to be near their best in Week 1 because that's when you're really getting hit for the first time. You're really out there going after it, in a regular season game. But Sunday night against Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay.
Although that was somewhat predictable, somewhat. It is the bad man that is Aaron Rodgers, right?
It's predictable, but then again, it isn't from the perspective of you have it locked in. It's one thing if you just play a bad game and you might still hold out. But when you play well for 3 quarters and then you fall apart when it counts most, that speaks to an absence of leadership more than anything else at any other time.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what resonated with him.
So despite the fact that all of his notable brothers on that football team have been taken care of, let's reiterate the fact that he didn't have just 1 year left on his deal or 2 years left. He had 3 full years left, and they were willing just to move up some money from the 3rd year into the 2nd year. I believe that's
well, he wasn't asking. His position all along is that he wasn't asking for quote unquote more money. He wanted some of the money that was designated for him in 2017 to be moved up to 2016.
Correct.
So he could be secure.
Okay. So going forward, this is your Super Bowl pick. Do you think this will immediately change the culture and life in Seattle?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
so
I
you
do.
think they'll get right back on track?
I think they'll get right back on track. I think with Kam Chancellor on that field, particularly the kind of mission that he's on, he feels that he's undervalued, not just monetarily, but because of the manner in which he was spoken to by John Snyder, supposedly. He didn't tell me that. A couple of his teammates told me that. But in the end, when you have that kind of feeling, if you thought Kam Chancellor was violent before on the football field, I think you're going to see a little something extra. But also the thing that I think you have to watch out for, not everybody inside that locker room was openly supportive of him and his position. And if there is a danger in all of this, is that he'll remember that too.
Yep.
He knows that there were a lot of guys, especially Marshawn Lynch, because that is a name he mentioned specifically to come back for. Marshawn Lynch. I mean, he said coming back for Marshawn Lynch. How Marshawn Lynch and I made promises to one another a couple of years ago. I can't leave my dog hanging like that. That's a quote from him.
I respect that.
So when you look at it from that perspective, clearly somebody like Marshawn Lynch, I would say of all the players in the locker room, that's the biggest reason he's coming back. There are others who have supported him, but there are others who are either tepid in their support or non-existent in their support at all. And he's going to remember them too, and that could be dangerous.
I believe the head coach was not on his bandwagon on this one,
He's not thinking about he knows about Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel the same about Pete Carroll.
I'm sure he does.
All right, but I'm talking players.
Sure.
There were players that weren't openly supportive of him. They were like, life can go on without me.
Yep.
You know, we play 11 on 11. I think that's a quote from Richard Sherman. I'm not saying Richard Sherman didn't support him. I'm saying we don't know how Kam Chancellor is going to receive those things.
Yeah.
And that's where that's the danger part that can come into the equation. But Kam knows he has no shot at validating his significance to that franchise if they start losing, even when he comes back.
Well,
they have to win.
He shouldn't have a big problem validating his value to that team this Sunday. No, I mean this Sunday they got the Chicago Bears in Seattle.
Jimmy Clausen,
Jimmy Clausen, can you handle that one, Cam? I think you can.
The 12s.
Then they get Detroit, who's sort of a semi-gimme, if you will, the next week in Seattle. Then they have to go to Cincinnati, and then it starts to get tough, and you'll start to figure it out.
For your edification, is something that you need to know. These players in Seattle don't just want the Super Bowl. They want New England.
Good.
I just want you to know that.
Yeah, well, trust me, Tom Brady ain't flinching on that one. Because he torched the Legion of without there's no B in it in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. Greatest fourth quarter of a Super Bowl I have ever seen from the great Tom Brady, the best quarterback in the National Football League. And I'm sure he would relish the opportunity to repeat that performance against those same Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to go on record right now as there's no way they're going to get back to the Super Bowl. I just don't see it. There's two. You spoke of this little dissension, that dissension, this dissension, this dissension. We haven't even talked about Jimmy Graham, who's clearly unhappy because he's not getting the football. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but they're just not throwing him the football yet. So with all that dissension, all that uneasiness under the carpet in the locker room, versus Pete Carroll, and still it goes all the way back to resonating to the call at the end of the Super Bowl game. I just don't know if you can climb out of that. I'm not sure about that. We'll see.
I have to pay attention to two teams. One of them is not the Cowboys. I'm paying no attention to the Cowboys. I would tell you that the Green Bay Packers, I would have paid attention to them if Jordy Nelson had been healthy, because I think that they would have had the best record in football. I think their home field advantage would have been in their pocket, and the road to the Super Bowl would have had to come through Lambeau Field, which I think would have been tough for anybody. Merrill Hodge came on my radio show yesterday on Sirius XM, and he said Arizona is a team to watch out for. You got to remember that Carson Palmer, they're 14-2 in his last 16 starts. Carson Palmer, that is, under the stewardship of Bruce Arians, who can really coach his butt off. And they have no fear of Seattle. But I'm still sticking with Seattle. I predicted that Seattle was going to go back, not just go back to the Super Bowl, but win it all. And the only way I will modify my pick in any way is if the Pittsburgh Steelers manage to get to the Super Bowl against them. Then I will think about it, and I reserve the right to revisit that conversation. Outside of that, I am not picking against Seattle at all. I believe that the Seattle Seahawks will win 12 of their next 14 games.
And I reserve the right to hang in with a football team that will get back Greg Hardy and Rolando McClain and Randy Gregory and ultimately Des Bryant and Tony Romo, and be the force to be reckoned with, even by your Seattle Seahawks, who have to, if memory serves, visit Jerry World this year.
I will tell you this. If Russell Wilson runs the ball more the way he ran on Sunday when he was chalking up 78 yards over those first three plus quarters, I'm here to tell you right now, ain't nobody beating Seattle.
Ain't nobody beating
Not
Seattle.
in the NFC.
Really?
All right.
NFC.
Stephen A. has them going to the Super Bowl.
Wow.
Skip, not so much. We'll revisit your Cowboys a little later in the show. But I'm happy for that entire fan base, the 12s, and for the Seahawks to get Kam Chancellor back.